All right. Well, I got a question for you now, Ross. So I've gotten to know you really well in the last 45 minutes or so. So I think I've got some deep insight on you now. So you're not someone that's going to buy an existing company brand like Sutton Canada to just take it over and continue doing whatever they've been doing up until now. You've got something else in mind to do with it, to bring it to another level. Like, that's not a wild guess, I don't think, on my my part.
I think you're pretty insightful there. But I think what's really been really interesting the last couple months as I've gone through this process. I mean, I keep a pad of paper beside my bed, and I'm up every night writing stuff down. The more I got involved in the actual potential to purchase it, the more excited I got. But more importantly, it was a little unique because I didn't know what was, like, I joked around, but I said to my wife, it was like I bought a barn and I didn't know what the contents were, right? So the good news is I got inside, I've met people like yourself, franchise owners, and there's, as I said, 115 of them across the country. It's been really enlightening, and there's some amazing people in Sutton. They operate their business at the local level incredibly well. I think the Sutton brand needs to be refreshed. So we've already started that process, and it's going to be in concert with our franchise partners, with our brokers, to understand what they liked about Sutton.
And what they need.
And what they need.
Right.
Right. So those, again, I think I love what I do, and I get super excited, and I'm a very competitive person. So, I think the opportunity to work with people like yourself and you and in the entire industry, I'm really looking forward. So I don't know all of the things that we're going to do, but, I more and more, like, I was just in Montreal 2 days ago, and I met with our partners there, and what an amazing organization. Every one of the franchise partners was incredible. And the one thing to really remember related to real estate, all real estate is hyper local, right? So it's one thing to be a national brand, but if you're going to be successful, it's going to be making sure that boots on the ground, the people that do and run those businesses, are actually serving that local market. Because what happens in Vancouver is completely unique and different than what's happening here in Toronto. What happens in Collingwood is very different than what happens in Whistler. So it's going to be those people, but as a brand and as a company, if we can put as many tools in your toolbox, that's my role.
And it's bringing a new energy to something as well. We've talked over the years too. You've been a Sutton guy for a long time, but you've had all kinds of ideas of things that can be done to help you as a local business owner, right? And you've got to have someone to voice those to and get them to react and come up with even the next level ideas and stuff. So I'm excited for you, David, as this is a great opportunity for your business.
Yeah, and sitting down with Ross and hearing it firsthand was, a great to hear as well. And I agree with you. I think the future is information. I think Sutton has proved itself over the last 37 years that it's one of the top brands in Canada, the future is bright indeed, especially with small micro adjustments. There can be a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that will be interesting from my perspective, and certainly what we'll do in Sutton, is we can move fast. I mean, I am, like I said, I'm pretty competitive. When I have an idea and I want to take that to our franchise partners and roll it out across the country, we'll do it faster than just about anybody. I've always operated very lean. I'm not a big org structure type person. I love what I do. I actually, like, one of the things I loved when I was with Sotheby's, I went on listing presentations all the time. I'm looking forward to actually working with brokers, working with homeowners, sitting down and listening that the tools that we develop in Sutton actually perform and work. But again, even understanding how they're going to use these tools, it's going to be very unique in every single market. So one of the things that was really interesting, even with the Sutton brand, at first I thought, that logo's been around for a long time. We got to redo that. We got to do this. The more I got into it, I realized, well, there's a lot of value in that logo, in that brand, and what they've done. But it's, it's going to be refreshed. We're going to be developing a new website. It's already in the works as we speak. But I was really blown away with how strong that brand is in Canada and how well known it is. And so people like yourself that have carried that flag have done a remarkably good job. But I think more importantly, I think it's working together to say not only what is Sutton going to do, but I think we're going to have a voice in the Canadian real estate market to elevate the experience, to really help define what that real estate professional is of the future. And for me, that just gets me up in the morning, makes me want to go do what I want to do.
Yeah, I sat down with an indie brokerage and I asked them, I kind of had a conversation with them and I asked them, I said, hey, if I ask, 10 people in the room, how many of these 10 people have heard of your brand, do you think? And the answer was 0. And then I asked them, well, if I ask the same 10 people in the room, how many of them have heard about Sutton? What do you think the answer is going to be? And, the wife looked at me and she said, well, probably everybody. I said, okay, interesting. And then, so this is in your local market. Yeah. I'm asking this question. Let's go to a different market. Let's go to a city that's, 50, 100, 200 kilometers away and do the same test, right? And consistently, everybody's going to know what Sutton is. Everybody's heard of the Sutton brand. And there's so much power in that. Right? Because the other question I asked the wife is I said, listen, if I give you $40 million and I give you a national ad budget, how much do you think you're going to be able to influence so that if I go 200 kilometers away, people are going to know your local brand in that market? And the wife sat for a few minutes and then she looked at me and she's like, we're not going to make much of a dent nationally. I said, exactly. So how much is the Sutton brand worth? Right?
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because, again, as the evolution and you've got teams that are coming in, everybody's building up their own private brands, which is an important thing to do. Everybody should do that, especially the independent contractor nature of it. But more importantly, just like you said, it needs to mean something. If you're a Sutton agent, it should mean something. Yeah. Because it will mean something to the homeowner. But, if you look at Tesla as a really good example, they have no ad budget. They spend no money on advertising. You know what they focused on? Is actually performing and giving people something that's unique and different. So one of the good news with Sutton is it is a known brand. It's been out there for a long time. But I think in order for us to expand, and I have very large, significant plans, I think we're going to triple the size of Sutton across Canada. There's a lot of markets that we're not in right now that we want to talk to potential new franchise partners. I think in order to be successful and grow that brand, it's going to be just looking for the best people out there. And if we do that really well, the expansion will come. And it'll be, at the end of the day, it's going to be homeowners are going to be better served because they're listing or selling their home through a Sutton agent. That's our goal. And again, being a uniquely Canadian brand rather than a US brand coming into Canada, I think it's a huge opportunity because there's really only 2 national Canadian brands. And I think Sutton's going to be a strong player.
Love it. So have you tapped into any of your previous connections and tapped anybody on the shoulder and said, hey, you're coming with me on this journey?
Yeah, there's been, I've developed some really strong relationships over the years across the industry. So I've been blown away with the number of emails, texts, and LinkedIn requests from people in the industry, both people that might have been with previous companies I'm involved with. A lot of developers have reached out to me to want to congratulate me and just be involved. I think one of the things that we've really, business I've always been involved in, we have a strong culture of performance, but having a lot of fun, right? So one of the things I know at the local level, each of the Sutton offices, they've done that incredibly well. I think the brand hasn't done a lot in the past, and I think one of the things we're going to do is define the culture of Sutton around professionalism, around business intelligence, about the future. But more importantly, it's having these deep personal relationships with everybody. So I think, and including our competitors, it's really making sure that everybody at all the other brands know who we are, we know who they are, and we work together. Because if we do that well, then the homeowners can be better served. I think, things like if there's new initiatives that are coming forward, consumer protection things, we want to do that too. But we should do that in concert with not only other brands in Canada, but the legal community, working with the banks, working with everybody. Because again, as an asset class, the evolution of managing and transacting real estate needs to perform at a higher level. Things are going to happen a lot faster, and there'll be a lot of pressure on costs. So we have to figure out how to do that, and at the same time, provide great service to our consumers.
Yeah, I love what I'm hearing so far. We've in this local provincial market, we've gone through an extended period of time with multi-offer type of transactions, and there's a whole generation of agents that have grown up in it. And something we talk about a lot of times when we meet with them is you have a even on the seller side, you got to qualify who your buyers are. You got a group of buyers that they all each have an agent. So you want to do whatever you can to find out who's the best buyer. It's not best price offer. It's who's going to be able to close the deal and give you everything that you really need. So you got to qualify your buyer. But the other thing is you got to qualify the agent that's bringing that buyer too. Yeah. And I think when, from what I'm hearing from you is when people know, oh, this is a Sutton agent bringing this buyer, that's going to go ding, 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 ding to a potential seller saying, okay, I got a level of professionalism behind this brand that this agent's bringing to me. So that helps qualify. I want to deal with that agent instead of fly-by-night real estate agent from a different brokerage that doesn't have the technology and the professionalism and the support. So I think there's huge value in that because we're still going to be in a market periodically where there's more than one offer and you got to qualify. You want to deal with a professional on the other side of a transaction.
No, you're entirely right. And I think the homeowner, quite often when these multi-bids experience, so the homeowners are not well served through that process. And so I think it's really incumbent on the brands and the real estate professionals to start working better, listening to their homeowners, and figure out the best solution there. And I don't have all the answers there, but I think at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the public's well served. And I think the real estate professional is the quarterback of that transaction. And I think the future of that quarterback is in jeopardy right now. I think that real estate professional has to completely change the way they behave, the way they interact with homeowners, and the way they interact with other brokers for the best interests of the homeowner. And the ones that don't and fight it, I think they're going to be gone. I think in 10 years, I think when people look at this industry, 10 years from now, they won't recognize how we did things before. So for me to be part of that conversation and part of that process, I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's great. You're going to get rid of the part-timers and the fly-by-night brokerages and raise the bar. And I think that's great for everybody, and it's great for the profession. And the bottom line is the consumer is better protected that way, better informed, better experience. They're going to refer you to their friends and neighbors, and away you go, and get rid of some of the lower end of the profession, because it's a problem. I see it all the time. I got the same thing in my industry. I hate dealing with half the lawyers that are in our business. I don't want to close transactions with them. They make our life miserable because they're not doing it full time. I want to close with the guys that are running a business like we are, that are doing it all the time. They're in the trenches all the time, closing, experiencing all the different things that happen. Even though they're competitors, I want them to do well. I need them in the industry to make my job better and our mutual clients, the transaction better. So it just goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it simplifies everything.
Yep.
Well, especially this better than anyone. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science to be successful in this business. You have to work hard. You have to be really well informed. You have to have the ability to engage people with some charisma around what you do and building your own brand and building these relationships. But it's not easy. And that's why the vast majority of people that go into the industry, they don't last a couple of years. And so even with previous companies I've been involved with, we used to say, go work somewhere else for a while. When you've got 5 years experience and you actually know what you're doing, come talk to us. But because if you do survive 5 years, then you're probably going to survive in the business. And I think that's one of the things that the industry isn't doing well enough, because it's these illusions of grandeur that you can make a lot of money in real estate. Well, you can, but you can make a lot of money in a lot of different things. Yeah. But the one trait that always, it doesn't matter if it's in real estate, whether it's in law, it doesn't matter what it is, you have to work, you have to put the time in. The concept of getting rich quick doesn't exist. Getting rich quick takes a long time, I like to say. So more importantly, at the end of the day, if you actually want to enjoy what you do and you want to add value to homeowners in the transactional process, then you have to perform at a very, very high level. And so it's hard to do with the existing model.